So while the main part of the UN General Assembly gets underway later on Tuesday, some key meetings have already taken place on the sidelines, like talks between the 5 signatories in the Iran deal. As a result, the European Union's foreign policy chief said the bloc will continue to trade with Iran and make sure financial links are maintained. The move does come in defiance of the US, which quit the deal with Iran and reimposed sanctions. RT's Ilya Petrenko now reports from New York.
With the very important people arriving in town, it is time to get things sorted. Just a couple of hours after Sergei Lavrov landed in New York, he was sitting behind closed doors with the ministers representing the international players who once made the Iran nuclear deal possible. That's the one Donald Trump called garbage. But EU's top diplomat Federica Mogherini late on Monday came out and said that Iran is fully complying with all the terms of the deal. So everyone besides Washington will keep supporting it. Plus, Europe will protect its businesses that are keen on dealing with Tehran. And here's what they came up with for that.
Mindful of the urgency and the need for tangible results, the participants welcomed practical proposals to maintain and develop payment channels, notably the initiative to establish a special purpose vehicle to facilitate payments related to Iran's exports, including oil and imports, which will assist and reassure economic operators pursuing legitimate business with Iran.
We'll keep hearing the word Iran loads and loads of times later this week. This is how big the issue is at this year's General Assembly. At a UN Security Council session devoted to the Iranian issue, Donald Trump will replace his diplomats at the table to defend his cause. We see presidents do that on very special occasions, to say the least. In the meantime, America's national security advisor and the #1 diplomat are trying to make their contribution to sorting out the Iranian nuclear issue by opening a summit called United Against Nuclear Iran. Perhaps you wouldn't really expect people taking part in these kind of events to really be willing to sit at one table with Iranian officials. However, this is what Mike Pompeo said not so long ago.
The president has been pretty clear about that. He is happy to talk with folks at any time.
So what will happen next to how the administration in Washington is treating Iran? And will any of the international players be able to affect it? We will find out in the next few days.
All right, so let's dig further into this story. Live now to Colin Cavell, Associate Producer of Political Science at Bluefield State University, joining us now from Bluefield, West Virginia. Colin, great to see you. I know it's late where you are, so thanks for joining us here on RT. How do you think Washington will react to the EU's plan to continue trading with Iran and ultimately circumvent U.S. sanctions?
Mr. Roy, the Trump administration will see the European stance as a direct opposition to President Trump's threats. President Trump has told the European countries and any country in the world that deals with Iran after November 1 that they will be directly targeted. So by standing up to the U.S., France, Germany, Italy, the big E3 countries, plus China and Russia and Iran, he will see this as a threat, and he will condemn them this week when he goes to the United Nations. They have been trying to undermine Iran, and in fact, we just saw Rudolph Giuliani, the advisor to President Trump. He's more like a consigliere of the mafia, and he is talking about how glad he is and how gleeful he is by the number of attacks going on in Iran and the undermining of the government. So this is the purpose of the United States right now, is to undermine the government of Iran and to severely attack it, as well as anybody else who trades oil, natural gas with Iran. So this is part and parcel of a larger plan that is going on, the confrontation between the U.S., Saudi Arabia and its allies, and Russia, China, Iran, and its allies. So this is setting the stage for a much larger conflict, Mr. Rory.
All right, well, Colin, we're going to get further into the story in just a moment. I did want to ask you, though, first, do you think the EU is making the right decision here, favouring the preservation of the nuclear deal and, of course, oil exports and imports with Iran over strong relations with Washington?
Well, if they want to maintain any semblance of respect, any sort of independence, any sort of sovereignty, then they will have to stand up. They will have to stand up in order to be counted, to be dictated to by the United States and just abide by whatever the U.S. says and be at the United States beck and call means that Europe really has no sovereignty, and that will be to their detriment. So if they're going to have a say in what goes on in modern international relations, then they have to stand up and make their stand count. And that means standing up to the U.S. when it says that they can't do what sovereign countries do and trade with whomever they wish and on whatever terms they wish. So it is a big step for the European Union. It's a growing step. They've been, for many decades now, just being the pawn of the United States, and now they have the chance to really stand up to be counted.